Hello everyone! In this video, we will see how to create a buy 10 button and a buy max button. So right now in my UI, I have two different buttons. So I have the buy 1 button, which we looked at before in a previous video, and I added two new buttons, buy 10 and buy max. Right now they're not doing anything, but we will see the logic to implement here. So I'm going to go into the game manager script, and what I'm going to do in this video is I will focus on the buy max button mostly, because it is going to be the most complicated one, but also the most interesting one. And you can also apply the logic of the buy max button to the buy 10 button afterwards. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function to calculate the number of units you can buy with the money you have. So the more money you have and the more units you should be able to buy. So I'm going to write public double upgrade max number. And this function will determine how many levels I can buy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to decide on a float, which is going to be called base multiplier. And the value is going to be 1.1. And if you look at the previous video, if you look at the code from the previous video right now, 1.1 is the value we have for the cost of the autocollect upgrade. And this is exactly what we have here. This is the base multiplier of the cost. And so we have the base multiplier, but we also need the base, we need the price of the base cost. So what I'm going to do is going to create a new double called base cost. And I'm going to say it's equal to autocollect upgrade cost. This line is not really necessary, but this is just to have more clarity in the code so we can understand what's happening exactly. And if I go back into the variables I declared in the game manager class, autocollect upgrade cost is 200. So this is the price of my base, this is the price of the very first upgrade of the autocollect. So what I'm going to say is that the base cost I'm looking for is pretty much the same. Once again, this is not necessary, just for the sake of clarity. And here is the main number I want to know. I want to know n, which is the number of upgrades I can buy. So I'm going to say that n is equal to math.flow. I have to warn you that this function is a bit long and a bit complicated, and if you want more details on how this works exactly, I will provide some links in the description. Right now I'm just focusing on the code and how to implement it. And in my math.log function, I want to have money times the base multiplier, so the 1.1 value. Here it is hard-coded, but you can change that to have a value that depends on whatever you're doing. I'm just keeping the same values as the upgrade cost. I'm focusing on the upgrade right now. This is just for the sake of examples, but you can apply that to any buttons you create and have something more modular that you can reuse. Right now, this is just for the sake of clarity and just to illustrate what's happening. And I'm going to say that this is multiplied by base multiplier, which is 1.1, once again, minus 1. And this will be divided by base cost to the power. So to get the power, I do math.power. Base multiplier, and the level of the upgrade. Right now I'm focusing on the autocollect upgrade, so I'm going to say level autocollect, but if I was focusing on the other function, I would say just level upgrade. Once again, you should have something more modular, but right now this is just to show how it works, how it is working. And I'm going to close the parentheses for the power function and the parentheses for the log function, but we're still in the calculating the flow. So right now I'm going to say plus 1 and base multiplier. And now I can close the parentheses, put my semicolon, and here we go. And I'm just noticed that I forgot to put a parenthesis here, and everything should be fine. We will not see any error here. And what I need to do for this function is I need to return this value. So now every time I call the function upgrade max number, I will get a number n that is the equivalent of the number of levels we can have. So this function is going to be really useful for two reasons. First, to tell you how many upgrades you can buy when you look at the button. So if you can buy 2 upgrades, it's going to tell you buy max and in parentheses 2. If you can buy 10 upgrades, it's going to say 10. If it's 25, it's going to say 25. So right now make sure to look that the parentheses are good. And here you have no errors. This is usually because it's a very long line of code. You can have a lot of errors if you just miss one parenthesis. So make sure this is exactly like that. I would suggest to pause the video to make sure you have the correct parentheses where they need to go. And so I'm going to write the function that allows you to actually buy the upgrade and get the leveling up in the code. So public void by maxed auto collect. Here I'm going to declare a few variables. First, base cost multiplier. I'm going to say this is equal to 1.1. So once again, the exact same logic here, 1.1, which is the value of the autocollect and the cost of the autocollect upgrade. So every time we have a new level, the price will increase by 1.1. Then I will get a base multiplier, base earning multiplier. This is going to be equal to 1.07, which is the value of the money per second we're going to make. So every time we level up, the cost of the upgrade is going to be multiplied by 1.1, and the money we can make thanks to the upgrade is going to be multiplied by 1.07 every time we level up. So those two values, those two variables are just representing what we declared before in the upgrade autocollect function. Now I want to have a base cost, which is going to be like before, autocollect upgrade cost. Once again, this line is not really necessary because we are kind of hard coding stuff at the moment. But if you have something more modular, you can assign something to base cost, and this is going to make your code very clear and easy to understand. And finally, we need to know n, which is going to be the max number of levels you can buy. And we had a whole function about that, so we just have to say that nmax is equal to upgrade max number. Now we declared our 4 variables, and we're going to have to use them. So the first thing is we need to know how many upgrades we can buy. And so to do that, we need to determine the cost of the number of upgrades we can have. So if I have 2 upgrades, it's going to cost me X money, and I need to be able to know what X is. If I have 25 upgrades, I need to know how it's going to cost me. So once again, this is a very complicated formula, and you can have more details in the description about formulas used in an idle game. But right now you can just copy the code here. So cost max is going to be equal to base cost multiplied by the power, math.power, of base cost multiplier and level autocollect. We're multiplying the base cost by the actual current level of the upgrade. And we multiply all of this to another power, math.power. Once again, base cost multiplier. And this time we multiply that by nmax, which is the maximum number of upgrades we can have at the moment. So you close the parentheses here after the power, and you add -1 to this. Then you can close this parenthesis here, and we divide all of this by base cost multiplier -1. And you can close the parenthesis once again here, and you should have 2 parentheses total. So you have the last parenthesis for the base multiplier -1, and the last parenthesis represents the very beginning of what we're multiplying base cost to. Alright, so with that we're going to be able to know the maximum cost of the number of upgrades we have, how much it's going to cost us to upgrade by the number of level. And now we need to know the amount of money gains we can have from that. So double max money gains is going to be equal to math.power base earning multiplier then level autocollect. Then we multiply that once again by another power, math.power base multiplier, base earning multiplier, the number of levels that we have, the maximum number, and -1 to this. And if you pay attention, this is pretty much the exact same as before. We're doing the exact same function, but instead of determining the number of upgrades we have and the cost of all of that, we determine the amount of money we'll be able to make, the bonus that is going to improve the amount of money we make. So everything is going to be the same. Instead of looking for the cost, we're looking for the earning this time. So if this is the same, we can say that this is going to be divided by base earning multiplier -1. If you're using Visual Studio, you should have the code that automatically shows up for you because it's the exact same as before. Alright, So now we have this. This parenthesis here at the beginning and at the end is not really necessary. I like to keep it because it kind of gives a symmetry compared to the function before. The only difference is we're looking for the base earning multiplier, not the cost. And for the cost max, we are having the base cost multiplied by everything. But here we don't need to multiply the base cost because we don't have a base cost. We just look for the gains. Alright, when this is done, we just need to have an if function to know that we can buy everything. So we need to make sure that the amount of money we have is higher than the cost. And here this is pretty much the same logic as what we have here. Like if we have more money than what it costs, then I can buy things. So if I have more money, I can say that the level is going to be, the level of the upgrade is going to be changed by the number of levels we can buy. So max. You have to put int right before nmax, because if you don't do that, nmax is a double but level autocollect is an int, so you need to cast that as an int. Nothing changes, you just have a round value because we're using round values for the level of the upgrades. And the amount of money I have will be less the cost of everything. So I'm losing all the money I used to pay for something is deducted from the amount of money I have. And finally, the money per second that I have is going to be improved by the max money gains, which is what we calculated here. And I had a bracket that was removed, but now I just have to put it back. So we have those two functions here. I can go back into the editor now, look into my canvas, and what I'm going to look at is the autocollect upgrade max button. What I want to have here is I want this text to change to say how many items is the max. Is it 1, is it 10, is it 25? So I just have to create a reference to the text, and I did that before. I created a reference, public text mesh pro UGUI max text, and it says by max, and then it tells me how many, what is the max exactly. So this is using the upgrade max number function from before, the one we just created at the beginning of the video. So my text is changed, so it will tell me how many upgrades I can buy now. So make sure to go into your game manager and for the max text to drag and drop the button max text here. And the actual button itself, on click, you can add the function game manager and buy max autocollect, which is the function we just wrote right now, buy max autocollect. So every time I press that, it will do the function of buying the maximum number of upgrades. So now we'll go into play mode, and a few things that I changed before the video. So first, I changed my money per tap to a value of 100, solely for the purpose of debugging everything. So every time I tap, I don't make 1, but I make 100 money, so I can see things going fast the way I want them to go. And I can see that the level autocollect is only 1, and we wrote the code for autocollect. So if I buy max, this should change from 1 to 3. I can see that it changed from 1 to 3. You can see that the money per second has changed. And every time I buy max, the level autocollect changes to the number of items we got, and money per second also changes and improves. So the UI is not really great here. It doesn't reflect everything, but we can see in the code right now what is happening. But you should definitely change the UI to have a level that tells you the actual level. So here it should be 5, but also the base cost at first should be 200, which is, we see here 200, but every time you buy an upgrade, it should change to what it is. So 200 times 1.1, and this is multiplied by the number of times you buy the upgrade. And just to finish this video, you can implement a buy 10 button, and I would suggest to just copy this code here, buy 10, and instead of having nmax equal to upgrade max number, you could just say that nmax is 10, and change the name of the function to buy 10. Because here the logic is the exact same. We want to see if we can buy the number of upgrades we have, and we actually are determining this number. Here we know for sure it's always going to be 10 because it's a buy 10 button. We don't have to calculate what money we have and how we can buy it. The logic is the exact same. You just have to create this new function, just change nmax to being 10, and in the buy 10 button you could just say game manager, I forgot to save here, game manager buy 10 autocollect. So this is it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.